Okay, thanks for joining us. I think everyone should be here by now. I'm sorry, you've just turned the volume up and I've just stopped the songs. I do apologize. Feel free to use the chat to network, drop a link. You may as well right now. But thanks for joining us. We're going to be talking about blogging today. Welcome to another One Yorkshire event from Fleek Marketing. My name's Jonny Ross. And as I said, do use the chat. If you've got questions, if you have not been to one of my sessions before, you won't know that I really do like questions. So the more questions you ask, the better. And I think it helps everyone. So please do use the Q&A box. Please do use the chat box. What are you hoping to get out of the session today? Are you currently blogging? In fact, if you're blogging right now, and blogging could be podcasting, could be creating video blogs, vlogs, could be all sorts of different types of blogging, writing articles on LinkedIn. That would be a type of blogging. So if you're blogging right now, would you just put a yes or a no in the, or if you're blogging, put a yes. If you're not, put a no in the chat. Good to see some of you using the chat. Just so you know that some of you are still only chatting to panelists, which is me only. If you change the drop down to panelists and attendees, then other people will see what you're saying. So we've got, let's have a look. We've got most of you, so like 80%. Oh, dropping a tiny bit sometimes. Or maybe we're on 60% of people are blogging. So what are you hoping to get out of this? What would you like to know? And it's brilliant that you're all here. Thank you so much for spending your time here. So I guess without further ado, we'll start getting on with this. So it's blogging tips, tricks, and how to be strategic. But as I said, I'd really like to know, what is it that you're hoping to get out of this? Is it inspiration to blog? Is it what to write? Is it, how to blog for SEO? How to get people to read, what is it you're wanting? Deborah, I'm looking for a kickstart to help get me going. Sounds good. Making my blogs more visible from an SEO point of view. All of those, please. There's probably a lot more. It's to get the benefits of SEO, thinking about sticky and regular content. Yeah, I like that. Sticky content. We also talk about evergreen content as well. So that's around content that can be used at any time of year. Ways to get blogs seen. Okay, good. Please do keep asking questions all the way through. I think it's fair to say that I've already asked you around your blogging. If you've got a, Catherine says, linking my blogging with other social media, and Charlotte's ways to get the blog seen. Lynn, how to get past writer's block. Okay, hopefully I think I can help you with that. If you are blogging right now, why don't you drop a link to your blog right now? That's a way to get people to see it. There's people here right now that could have a look. So that could be a little start for you. Just to confirm that all of this is being recorded, you will have a copy of this afterwards. Depending on how busy my day is, it might be tomorrow, but I will send an email out. That'll have a link to this recording. I'm here to entertain you for the next hour on behalf of One Yorkshire and Fleek Marketing. And there's lots and lots of other seminars that I've been doing. You'll be able to find those on the YouTube channel of ours. And as I said, I really do want you to ask questions, because that gives me an ability to be able to add a lot more value and really give you a proper helping hand. I should say, for those that don't know me, for those that do know me, I apologize. You've heard this story a number of times now. If you've been coming to all my sessions, I do recognize a few names, and it's really lovely to have you here. So I really do appreciate it. So I'll try not to bore you specifically for the next minute or so. But for those that don't know me, my name's Jonny Ross. I am a qualified optician. Gives me great credibility to be talking about blogging, doesn't it? Not really. We set up a sunglass website selling. I got distracted because Deborah's asking me the YouTube channel, so I'll put that in the notes in a few minutes, and I'll stop looking so that I don't get distracted. There we go. So we set up an e-commerce site selling sunglasses back in '99. It was in the dot-com boom very early on, and we became the biggest sunglass retailer for about 5 years. We knew that from our buying power. buying directly from Gucci, Armani, Dior, Chanel, you name it, every single brand of sunglass, Oakley, Bolle. We were the biggest detailer for about 5 years because we were buying more than Shade Station, buying more than Debenhams. We were at the top of Google for every single keyword you could imagine. Sunglasses, designer sunglasses, Chanel sunglasses. It was brilliant, but sales dropped. We didn't know why. It took us a month to realize that we were no longer at the top of Google. In fact, we'd been pushed to page 7 of Google, and no one ever goes to page 7. We went through a couple of SEO agencies over an 18-month period, spent a fortune, tens of thousands of pounds, and we were still on page 7 by the end of it. In the end, I found a guy in New York who was on $250 an hour, but within 2 weeks, he got us back to page 1. I learned a huge amount, became really frustrated with the SEO industry and the marketing industry, and I was a minority shareholder. So I decided to go off and help businesses understand this. We needed to invest, and the senior partner didn't want to because Shade Station and Debenhams had taken over at that stage. So I set up my own marketing company, and it was clear that people wanted a lot more than SEO. And that's how I ended up doing a whole breadth of marketing. Deborah was asking for a link to the YouTube channel. I'll share that now for you. It's the Fleek Marketing YouTube channel. I'll just quickly grab it. Oh, my microphone's in the way. This very much is around marketing today, blogging today. And for me, one of the things around it is that blogging, I think, is the core to any marketing strategy. So that's the way I see it. And so bear that in mind as we go through. I'll just drop the link there. Look at where Debenhams are now. Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. It's a true story. That's, that's what happened. And, I sort of, I loved the high street as an optician. I was a retailer on the high street, and I love retail and passionate about it. But the whole SEO thing really got my goat, and I ended up and Google it's not a fair playground at all, and Google decides what Google decides. So what we do now is we test and play, and I still speak to this guy in New York, and we try to trigger penalties to try and understand what Google likes and what Google doesn't like, and that over the years has really helped inform the strategy, really. So blogging more key than social media? Yes, because blogging supplies the content for social media. So I think without the content, social media is nothing more than just you having a conversation, which is extremely important. But having the content behind it gives you the trust, the authority, the shaping, the story. That's, I think, what brings more value to social media. That's how I would see things. So let's just move this forward. So I always start with search engine optimization. I've told you the story, and that's how I got here. And I think it's difficult for me not to. And to be fair, a lot of the comments that I've seen so far include, how does blogging play a part of SEO? So I think if we just spend a few minutes just understanding SEO from a real basic point of view, and you can then see how blogging feeds into that. So SEO is about creating great content. Well, blogging, there we go. And as I said, blogging could be podcasting, it could be vlogging, etc. It's about making sure the search engine is the content's accessible to the search engine. So that's about using things like schema, marking content up on websites, making websites easy for Google to understand. And I do a whole nother SEO seminar. You're very welcome to it. There's one coming up soon. You can have a look on the One Yorkshire site. There's one that I've done previously as well, and you can have a look on the YouTube channel. It's about making pages unique and relevant across the website. It's about making something popular. If you imagine Google, you want to show popular content, don't you? So if something's popular, it's going to naturally get higher in Google. And it's about good PR, good traditional PR, but online. So people talking about you, referencing you, saying how great you are. And that's what good SEO is really about. There's two sides to search engine optimization. There's the website itself, and that's about the content, the keywords, the technical aspect. Google knows I'm on a mobile phone. Does your website work well on a mobile phone? And then the second side of search engine optimization is about everyone talking about you, links, the relevancy, the trust, the reputation, the reviews. What are people saying about you? And blogging is a great way to build some of this offsite. And I'm going to give you some case studies, some personal case studies throughout this, or certainly in a middle section, where I'm going to explain just how I've managed to achieve some of the offsite side of things just from blogging. Domain authority is something that is a score that Moz, M-O-Z, Moz.com. It's one of the biggest search engine platforms in the world. You could consider that they may be in bed with Google very early on. If you have a look at their domain authority score, it's a score out of 100. And typically that score is sort of what Google thinks of you. It's not the only thing to look at, but it certainly gives you a good idea. I'm not suggesting you need to pay for Moz. You can use the free version. You can look at 10 searches a month. So you can look at 9 competitors and yourself once a month, and you can get an idea of where you sit in that score of 100. And I would hope that doing some really good strategic blogging could really help you increase that score and therefore get Google to like you more and want to put you higher in the search engine. So really important from an SEO point of view, but even more important from a blogging point of view is to think of keywords. And as I said, throughout this, when I say blogging, it could be vlogging, it could be podcasting. So it doesn't matter if those words are spoken. Okay. It doesn't matter at all. Videos can easily be turned into transcripts. Podcasts can be easily turned into transcripts. YouTube knows what we're saying. Facebook knows what we're saying. LinkedIn now automatically adds captions. Zoom adds captions. You can turn, I don't know if you knew that, but it's a new feature that they've just released. You can turn on the captions, and as you're talking, it gives subtitles. So the spoken word, all of these platforms know what we're saying. So you've got to think keywords. What are people typing into Google that you want to be found for to be relevant for? And what questions your potential clients asking Google? That's the most important thing. What do you think your potential clients are asking Google? So we think of keywords. There's a few different ways of doing this. You could just instinctively think of some keywords and think, okay, well, what could I write into Google that I think my potential audience might be searching? And based on that, Google starts giving you some suggestions. And those suggestions are typically things that other people have asked Google. And they're only there because a number of people have asked the same phrase or the same question. And these are some of the great places to get keyword ideas from, to get phrase ideas from, to get question ideas from, and to get blog title ideas from. The key thing here. So going from the keywords to a blog title, to subheadings within a blog, and to the content within the subheadings. Those are that's how we need to think about this. I've done lots of SEO over the years, and I had a company approach me very early on asking to work on gift ideas, the term gift ideas. It was an American company. And I said, well, yeah, we can work on this, but it's going to cost you an absolute fortune. And I'm not convinced that people are ready to buy if they simply type in gift ideas into Google. So we looked at some specific niches. We looked at retirement gift ideas for women. Well, all of a sudden, the number of people searching that is considerably less. However, it's a lot easier to get high in Google for it. And in fact, it's a lot easier to get to page 1, position 1 in Google for it. So if you can serve a page that has that answer, that has that need, that has products for retiring women, gift ideas, then you've got a high conversion rate. So whilst you've got a much lower volume of traffic, you've got a much higher conversion rate. And the cost of achieving that was obviously far less. So there's lots of different ways you can come up with keywords. And again, just to remind you, you will be getting a copy of these slides, so you don't need to frantically write down, although making notes will help you. But here's a slide that shows you some of the tools that you could consider to come up with ideas of blogs. Probably BuzzSumo, but it's a paid tool, is a really good one to focus on if you are looking at spending a bit of money. But the people also ask box. So as you type a question into Google, you'll notice that as you drop down on the page, you'll see this people also ask box. And as you start opening some of those questions, what you'll notice is that Google shows you more questions that people also ask. So you type a question into Google, you'll probably see this box, you scroll down, you'll see it, open the questions, and you'll see even more appear. And do you know what? Those are the blog titles. Those are the questions that you need to consider using and writing about. So the offsite side of things is about links. It's about getting links and people talking to you. So if you imagine your website a bit like a spider's web, your blog sits on your website. So it's part of your website. It's not a separate thing. It should be on the same domain, and it's at the center of here. And what you're wanting is people to link to you. So you want to produce magnets. You want to produce resources. You want to produce authority content, opinion pieces. You want to give away tips and tricks. You want people to say, oh, do you know what? To answer that question, have a look at that link over here. And lo and behold, that link is to your blog. That's the sort of creme de la creme. And the reason it's a spider's web with lots of concentric circles is because you want a whole array of different types of people or different types of websites linking to you. So that could be anything from clients, suppliers, PR, media. It could be social media. It could be trade associations. It could be companies that you collaborate with. It could be all sorts of different types of links that you could generate. And for the real SEO people here, there's a whole slide there that gives you lots and lots of link building ideas. So we won't focus on that now, but there's certainly lots of ideas on how to build links and get those links from an SEO point of view. So why should I blog? Why should you blog, more importantly? Why should you be blogging? Well, that's the big question. And I know some of you are, but let's just answer that. So it forces creativity. I think that's a real important thing. I think, the amount of learning that I've done through podcasting, through vlogging, through delivering seminars like this, through blogging, I'm learning all the time. And I think that's a real key thing to bear in mind, that this is actually about your own personal development and the company's development as well. And you'd be amazed at how you can go into areas that you were unaware of by just writing a blog. But also it shows personality, which increases engagement. People buy from people. Yes, there's B2B. Yes, there's B2C. And yes, if you're John Lewis or Coca-Cola or McDonald's, then people buy from the brand name. But if you're an average company that people haven't necessarily heard of, then the only way people buy is people buy from people. And I didn't mean that derogatory in being an average company. I'm just talking about, if you're not John Lewis, 99% of companies need to show personality to get people to like the people within them. It's a way to communicate with existing clients. Do you have a communication strategy for your existing clients? I mean, one of the things in business that we all need to focus on is retaining clients. Well, blogging gives you a way to communicate with existing clients, especially, for example, if you could get them to sign up to the blog to receive it in their inbox, or you could easily turn blogs into email newsletters, and we'll talk about that as well. Saves time. Perhaps people ask you the same question all the time. Brilliant. Write a blog on it. Here's the answer. Saves a huge amount of time. Search engine optimization will hopefully have drilled that in the last 10 minutes, showing you that it's all about the keywords, the content. And so from an SEO point of view, blogging really ticks a huge box. Puts you ahead of your competitors. It gives you a way to be a thought leader and gain trust. People buy from people they like, but also you've got to gain trust. People have to trust you. And one of the ways of creating trust is not just showing personality, but showing your opinion. So thought leadership is certainly something to consider. I'd just probably distinguish it at this stage that you've got business to business blogs, so more services, etc. They probably are more sort of helpful, resourceful, thought leadership style, opinion style. You've got B2C, more consumer, and they tend to be more sort of fun, more humor, more helpful and resourceful, probably less opinion, less thought leadership. Those are probably just the two areas for you to consider. It's a way for you to stay up to date. It's a way for you to build a community around you. It's a way to force creativity, like I've talked about. It's a way to add value to your website. It gives you content for social media channels. It supplies content for email campaigns and loads more of reasons. So how do you come up with the ideas? Well, the thing is that you need to feed yourself. You need to feed yourself full of stuff. So what's that stuff? Well, here's just some of the ideas that you could feed yourself with. You could subscribe to competitors' blogs, vlogs, podcasts. You could subscribe to industry related news. You could subscribe to professional bodies or services. So if you're a lawyer, you could subscribe to the Law Society's blog, for example. Creating Google alerts on niche topics, I think, is brilliant. So if you can think of a particular topic or a particular niche or a particular question, you can put that in as a Google alert, and Google tells you the moment there's new content around that particular topic. You then take that content and start writing about it yourself, but you're then very early on because it's only just come into Google. So it's a great way to inspire you and give you ideas. Think of all the different products and services you've got. Put them all out on a table and think about all of them and think about all the different intricacies across them all. Keep notes of questions clients ask you. If it's not you answering your phones, ask whoever answers your phones, ask them, what do people ask when they ring? What are the things that people ask when you're sat in front of a client? What are the typical things people are asking? Let's find out. Let's write that down. Let's turn that into blogs. What are your passions? The most important thing is to show that personality, to bring you into this. Blogs have to have a face. Really important. So whether that's you or a team member or another director or whoever that is, it might be that a company has seven or eight voices with it from within, but that's fine. Let's put a face to each blog. Let's bring some personality. Let me find out about you. For me to buy something, I need to. The easiest way for me to get me to buy something from you is for me to get to know you. And blogging is a way to do that. I use a voice recorder. So on my iPhone, I just suddenly come up with an idea, and I could be anywhere. I could even be in bed. And I need to just, either write it down or put it into a voice memo and then use it at a later date. So I've got like lists and lists of ideas. Guest interviews is a great way as well. So talking to other people and interviewing them can give you some great ideas on blog topics. So there's loads of different types of content. I talked very early on about how it could be blogs, vlogs, podcasts, but here's just a few ideas of the types of content that you can consider. So we won't spend too long on this slide, but we'll just dip into a few of them. So we've got the blogs, but I talked about interviews. So could you get an expert in your particular field or a particular associated area? So I'll give you an example. An estate agent could get a solicitor or an insurance broker as an expert to do some kind of guest blog or interview. That would be probably a good example. So who could you interview to add some really rich, relevant content onto your platform? Case studies, they turn into good blogs. So what have you managed to achieve for someone? What have you done? A blog of your latest reviews or what people have said about you recently. That can actually be a really interesting blog. Experiences that you've had, what trends there are. So you can go to Google Trends and you can have a look at what's trending within Google. Twitter has something called Trends Map, so you can see what's trending on Twitter. As I said, you could turn the blogs into vlogs, so do video blogs instead, or as well infographics. So that's very pictorial, where you've got sort of facts and figures, and you turn that into a very visual piece of information. That works well. Lists, I love lists because lists tend to be quite easy. So for example, top 10 tips on how to do whatever. Well, then you've just got to think of 10 things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or the ultimate checklist on doing whatever, and you might have 60 numbers. So it makes it quite easy to then not just come up with the idea, but actually to write the content as well. Content series. So for example, I might do something on a blog series on LinkedIn. And so there might be, sort of 6 blogs within that series. Blog 1 is how to increase connections on LinkedIn. Blog 2 is how to sell on LinkedIn. Blog 3 is how to write content for LinkedIn, whatever it might be. But what I'm doing is I'm creating a series of blogs. You could write a white paper and turn that into blogs. So you've got sort of an in-depth report or an in-depth piece, and that could turn into many, many blogs. How-to guides, how to do something, surveys and polls, podcasts, the top comments you've had, quizzes, checklists, history timelines, industry event roundups. I like that one. That's where you really understand your audience. And, for example, for argument's sake, we're trying to sell a marketing service to lawyers. So we really get to understand lawyers, and we have a look at what's going on in their diaries, and we have a look at the events that are in their calendar. So the Law Society event, the National Lawyers AGM, the National Lawyers whatever. We put it all in a diary, and then we do an event roundup. So we're not the experts, but we've just done a bit of research, and we've found that these are the top events that lawyers should be going to. And in fact, actually, now that we've looked at some of those websites, these are the highlights. So we could then position ourselves as someone that's knowledgeable within the law arena. But actually, all we've done is come up with what's actually already going on in their calendar. I've got a question here. When it comes to infographics or case studies, are there any legal things we need to be aware of? So let's answer this. Or can we just state where received out research and state it's your review or your point? Hope that makes sense. Yeah, I think it does make sense. So I think the best thing to do is to always cite. Is that the right word? To cite where you've got the information from. And it's not even just relevant for infographics and case studies, because actually it's about making blogs really rich. What Google wants to see is someone gets to a blog, they have a good experience, and they surf the web. Google wants to see good experiences. They want to see someone does something on Google something, and then for the next hour just keeps clicking and clicking and clicking, and goes from this and spends 5 minutes there, then clicks something in that, spends another 5 minutes, and they want to see that journey. Now, if you can be part of that journey and give data, so I'll talk about something and I'll say, recently there was a 23% of people prefer using LinkedIn than Facebook, whatever it might be. I'll then have that as a hyperlink to the Guardian article that was talking about it. So in answer to your question about infographics, yes, I would cite stuff, and I'd put stuff at the bottom of the infographic. This data came from blah, 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 etc. I don't believe there's a legal issue as long as you're citing where the information came from, and as long as that information is freely available on the public wide web, which if you go on a website and it's there, it's freely available, then I don't believe there's any legal consequence whatsoever. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm reasonably confident on that answer. So Kirsten was saying experience and journey. Yeah, that's what it is. The way to think of, you have to think of as if you're Google. So if you were Google, what makes good content? What makes a good experience? So I talked about event roundups, competitions, FAQs. So what are the questions people are asking? That could turn into a good blog. Ebooks, day in the life. That gives you the ability to show personality. So could you do some day in the life of a particular member of staff or a particular job role, and next week do something else? And seasonal advice as well. So can you tie it into what's going on in the real world right now? So there's just lots of different types of content. Don't forget that you can also guest blog as well. So this isn't about just blogging on your own website. It's also about blogging on other websites. And this is a great way to get links back to your website. So for example, I blog on FastHost, which is a hosting company. I blog on Search Engine People, which is a Canadian SEO blog, Sage Business Experts. But what happens is when I'm writing these blogs, I'll write about something and I'll say, and actually, if you want a bit more information, I wrote about this a couple of months ago on this blog over here. And I then link back to one of the blogs I've written on my own platform. So what I'm doing is not only reaching a new audience in terms of the content, because it says, authored by Jonny Ross, Fleek Marketing, I've also got a link back to my own content. So guest blogging is a real great way to increase reach and to increase traffic to your own blog. So that's another thing to consider. Is anyone guest blogging right now? And do you have any particular questions out of all the things I've just shown you? Are there any of these things that you're currently doing? Maybe just put that in the chat. Or if you've got a question, put it in the Q&A for me. Gives me a chance to have a little drink. you can get into a whole lot of bother if you start ripping off photos and content. You're right, always cite credit sources. Yeah, I mean, that's a real important point. We didn't talk about images there, and I wasn't suggesting you can use images. In terms of images, I'd be very, 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 very careful. So unless it specifically says that you can use that image, and maybe you just have to cite it, or maybe you can just use it, then use it. If it doesn't say you can use that image, do not use that image, because I've seen so many cases where images cause a huge problem. I'm not as concerned about content, but I'm very concerned about images. Be very careful about images. There's loads of free sites though. So Pixel Bay is a great website. Free stock. If you just, I've got a blog. Lo and behold, I've got a blog of the best image resources. I'll find it for you. It's a really good point. So I'll see if I can find that for you. Images. So whilst I'm looking for that, I will tell you something else. So let me give you some stories. And oh, here we go. I found it. I might as well drop it. So this is the ultimate. So here we go. Here's a perfect example. Someone's asked me about images, and I happen to have already pre-written the ultimate guide to free images for blogs and websites. And it's now, oh, I've only sent it to panelists. That's not very good, is it? Oh, and I only sent the YouTube link to panelists earlier. Dear me. So I'll send you that as well. 1 second. But there we go. You can't beat that example. So that's the sort of creme de la creme. Having that question already answered and being able to say, here's a blog I wrote about it. That's really a great place to be. So let me give you some case studies, some real life case studies. And as I said, I genuinely believe that blogging is the core of the strategy here. So blogs very easily turn into tweets for Twitter. So if, top 7 tips on how to whatever, well, that turns into 7 tweets. It turns into a status or question on Facebook. It turns into an image for Instagram. It turns into a video for YouTube. It turns into email content. So, if you do a weekly blog, for example, that could turn into a monthly email where you've got just snippets of the blogs in the email. So I do believe that the blogging is the core, but there's a lot of things that feed into that core, and we're going to cover those things as well. But let me give you some real life examples. So this was a blog that I wrote about the big issue of big data, and this goes back, you'll see on the slide, it's 2013, and it was very early on when people were starting to talk about big data, but no one really knew what it meant. There's a guy called Danny Brown who HubSpot is the largest B2B marketing platform, I'd say, online. HubSpot recognized Danny Brown as the #1 marketing blogger. Okay. And I like Danny Brown. I follow him on Twitter. I like what he says. He wrote an extensive piece about big data. I took that and gave my own view on it and sort of the 7 terms you need to know. And you'll notice that on the blog here in the first line, I've put the topic of big data and there's a hyperlink. And that hyperlink goes to Danny Brown's blog about big data. And I wrote a thought piece on it, gave the 7 terms you need to know. And what happened? Well, lo and behold, Danny comes and comments on my blog. Now, getting a comment on a blog is not easy. It's actually really difficult to do. And most people think, oh, no, I don't want comments on, I don't want people to say the wrong things or to have to deal with all of that. Trust me, if you've got comments on, you forever, you're saying, how do I get a comment? So getting comments is not easy. Okay. Now, Danny had, I think, a WordPress website. WordPress tells you if someone links to you. Google Analytics tells you if someone links to you as well. So that's probably how he knew. But I couldn't believe this guy that I follow on Twitter has suddenly come and commented on my blog. Now, you could say, so what to this? And that's fine. But for me, it was a huge thing, by the way. But say, so what? Well, he then takes my blog and tweets it to 35,000 of his followers. And you'll see in his bio there, he's recognized as the #1 marketing blog in the world, recognized by HubSpot. It's quite a big thing. He's a big, he was big back then. So I get this, Lynn says, I get excited if someone replies to one of my tweets, never mind commenting on my blog. You're right. It's difficult, isn't it? So you could say, so what, by the way, to Danny Brown. But then what does he do? Well, he does the gold dust thing. He links from his website to my blog. His website recognizes the biggest marketing blog talking about marketing, linking to my blog talking about marketing. This is the gold dust link from an SEO point of view that's coming to my blog. And I've achieved this purely by writing a blog, nothing else. Nowadays, I'd probably have tweeted him to say, you know, oh, Danny, I love what you say. You know, here, I've written about it as well. Back then, you didn't do stuff like that. 2013, it's a long time ago in digital. But all I did was I just wrote a blog. So there's one example. And you could say, so what? But this is what happened to my traffic. Big increase that day, and an increase in leads as well. I'll give you another example. I did a controversial blog about open source and sort of WordPress, WordPress type websites versus bespoke websites. And I've got quite an opinion on this, and it was a thought leadership style piece. It turned into a huge debate, lots of comments, and it's an example of a very controversial blog. I'm going to focus on a couple of others instead, though. So this one is an interesting one. So when I first set up this business, I knew that I needed to get out there, and one of the things that I wanted to do was speak at conferences, speak at events, and actually I'd never spoken. This goes back to 2011, and I'd never ever spoken. I shied away from it. I hated public speaking at school. It wasn't something I was interested in the slightest. And in 2011, I wrote this blog, and there's a reason I tell you that story. But I wrote this blog, online versus offline marketing techniques. And I get a phone call completely out of the blue. And it's a woman from the Association of Independent Marketing Directors for Schools, Independent Schools, sorry. And she says to me, I've just Googled online and offline marketing techniques, and you came up top. And I didn't even realize I was top. And after the call, I Googled it myself, and it turns out that I was top. It was quite a niche phrase again back then. And, you know, 2011 was quite early on. And lo and behold, I was top of Google for this. Lynn says, I honestly never guessed you'd have struggled with speaking. I mean, like, I just got to tell you this very quickly, that my first speaking gig, I think my first ever was a 5-minute session. And I must have been practicing for about 3 months, like nearly every other day. And I was winding my wife up like there was no tomorrow. And even just like 5 minutes before, I was still shaking. I got on the stage and they handed me the microphone, and I had to hold I had a clipboard with me. I had to hold the clipboard underneath the microphone to stop my hand shaking. Anyway, so so there we go. It's funny how things can change. So I get this call, Association of Marketing Directors. She says, I've just Googled this, and it turns out that I'm at the top of Google for it. Brilliant. Okay. So she says, she then makes a load of assumptions because I'm at the top of Google. She says, well, I assume that you that you speak about this all the time, and that you've obviously done a lot of research. Well, I've done a tiny bit. She said, you obviously speak about this. So I sort of didn't say anything. And she says, we've got a conference in Birmingham in 6 months' time, 400 marketing directors. What do you charge? I'd never spoken, ever. And this blog wasn't even written for that purpose. It's always good having a purpose. And anyway, I fluffed my way through the call, gave her a figure. She agreed. And I came off, and I Googled myself to see if I was there. And I just could not believe what had happened. And luckily, I found this 5-minute speaking gig in between that time to sort of get me into the mode of speaking in front of a crowd. But it was amazing because she'd made all these assumptions. And again, it was just from a blog. This one, someone on LinkedIn said, who's the best SEO company in Leeds? There was a big debate that started. I jumped in and I said, well, actually it's, you know, some bright spark said, well, whoever's at the top of Google for SEO Leeds must be the best company in Leeds. I jumped in and I said, no, I disagree. I disagree for a number of reasons. Actually, I wasn't at the top of Google for SEO, so that was one of the biggest reasons. but I went in and I said, look, this is why. Actually, it's really easy to get to the top of Google for SEO leads. That doesn't mean they're the best company. And I wrote this blog and I said, in fact, let's do an experiment. And you can go back to this blog and have a look. I don't think it sits on page one anymore, but it did for many years. And my focus has been on other things since. But I wrote this blog and I looked, whilst I was writing, I Googled SEO leads and I found out that I was in position 99. And if you go to this blog, you'll see all the data on there. I was in position 99 at the time. And I said, I wonder, once I post this blog, where I'll appear in Google for SEO leads. And in fact, whilst I'm at it, I wonder where I appear for SEO company leads, best SEO company. I came up with 10 phrases. And I wrote the blog and I posted it. And you'll see that every week I went back and I updated where I was, and I got to position 3 of Google for it. And I said, and it was a really just sort of raw, authentic experiment blog. And I said, actually, it's bloody easy if you want to. You just got to write some really good content that's engaging. And I was just very open and honest and sort of just showed the techniques and why I was using words in particular places. And I got to position 3, and I was in position 3 for probably about 4 or 5 years. And as I said, I've just focused on other things since. But and there's been a huge amount of competition as well since. So some of this, isn't that difficult. It's just Francis. I remember that post on LinkedIn and your response. Brilliant. I love it. So you've got the case studies, you've got the reasons, you now know how to feed yourself full of content. This next bit is how to actually make it happen. Francis, it's lovely to see you here, by the way. Not that I can see you, but knowing you there is good. How to create an editorial calendar. So this for me is the sort of the nub of it all. And this gives you the plan, it gives you the accountability, it gives you the inspiration to do it, I think, as well. And it's strategic because it all feeds back to who your clients are and the type of client you're looking for as well. So for me, it could sound complex, an editorial calendar, but it's just, it doesn't need to be fancy and detailed. It's just really simple. It gives you the planning and the accountability. So you come up with a list of things, nothing more than that. So what's going on in your world, but what's also going on in your clients' worlds. And we do a bit on personas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on personas today, but in other sessions, I do spend time on personas. And it's about coming up with different target audiences. So, maybe we're trying to tap into HR directors. Maybe we're trying to tap into, 35-year-old men that play golf because we know they'll buy this particular product. Maybe we're trying to tap into IT directors. We come up with a number of different personas, and that's fine. We can have as many as we want, but we then think about what's going on in their world. What events are they going to? What things do they read? What films do they watch? What's in their calendar? What's in their calendar? Yeah. So, what event? So events would be a key thing. So what product launches have we got? What events or trade shows are there in our calendar or in their calendar or in our industry's calendar? So there might be some big SEO conference in Canada. Well, I'm not going to it, but I could put it in my calendar and I could talk about it. What marketing campaigns are there? Any promotions, any holidays? So Easter, Christmas, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, we all relate to things like this. So let's use them. What sporting events are there? So, is the Olympics? I know COVID's changed everything, but when's the Olympics? When's the rugby? When's the big football FA Cup? Put these things in our diary. If it helps show passion, or if you think it can relate to in our audience. You could always think of this day in history. So if we think of, what happened on the 1st of March in history, we could Google that. We could have a look on Wikipedia and see what happened in history. What about TV programs that are coming up? So for example, one of our audiences we know really like watching The Apprentice. So we'll be having a look at when's the next season of The Apprentice, and that'll go into our calendar, into our diary. National days or weeks. So, national independent, words have gone. National Book Reading Week, Independent Women's Day. Is that right? it's this week, isn't it? Things like that, if it relates to your audience or your products or services, what is it, when is it? That's all you need here, a list of things and dates. Another one would be charity campaigns, so Comic Relief, Red Nose Day. You can have themes as well and patterns. Stephanie, thanks, the 8th of March. I knew it was this week. And then what you do is you put them into an Excel sheet. So you put the categories on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you've got January, February, March, April, and in each one, you put what's going on. So for example, in March, we know we've got a new service coming out, and it's the Grand National. And in April, there's a major supplier conference, it's Easter, and it's the boat race, okay? And it's our anniversary. What anniversary is it? 5th, 6th, 7th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd? Every year is an anniversary. Let's get it in the diary. I've come up with a template here, which... I haven't got a clickable link, but if you take a quick screenshot of that, it will, as I said, these slides will be coming to you anyway. And you can pinch this template with pleasure. It's got all the types of things on the left-hand side, and it's got the days. And all you need to do is spend about, so I'm going to show you 2 calendars. And I think within half a day, you could complete both of these calendars. I mean, you're taking an hour out now. I think if you were to just take another 3 or 4 hours out, you could easily do this, because all you have to do is do a bit of Googling. What are the big events in the whatever industry? What are the national days? There's loads of websites that have all this information on, so you could easily populate this calendar. And there's also Hootsuite are very good at giving calendars away. Sprout Social are very good at giving calendars away of things like national days, national weeks, etc. So you create a calendar of things and dates. You then think about, okay, what can I tie? What services and products can I tie to those things and dates? So for example, I know it's Mother's Day, middle of March, or I'm going to take an easier one in my head. I know it's Wimbledon in June or July. Okay, it probably isn't this year, but anyway. So it's all about strawberries and green and outside. How can I take one of my products or services and relate it to that? And what blog title can I come up with right now that says, okay, in July, when the Wimbledon is or whatever, or maybe it's Valentine's Day and I want to do something about red and love. So how can I take a product or service that's to do with red and love, or bring that into it, come up with a title, and then use this strategic Excel sheet that ties everything together. So the things it ties together, let's just go into this detailed one here, because again, there's a template here. You can pinch it with pleasure. So let's go with the Valentine's one. We know it's week 2 of February, so we put week 2. We think, who's writing it? This is based on if you're doing something weekly. You might say, well, I'm only going to do something once a month. I'm going to do every 2 weeks, etc., etc. So what are you going to stick to? And is it just you that writes, or have you got other people that would be writing as well? As I said, it doesn't have to be written. It could be a podcast, could be a video. But the point is that this is the topic. So February, week 2, we know it's Valentine's Day. Who's writing it? Johnny's writing it. The topic, it's win power LinkedIn with love this February. The industry, who am I writing it for? So I've got my target audiences. I'm writing it for solicitors this month. The sector, maybe I'm going for a particular sector as well. Are there any particular links that I think, that I've thought about that would be good to mention right now? So maybe I've seen something in The Guardian. I drop a link into this Excel sheet. What products or services is it highlighting? It's highlighting my LinkedIn training. What audience is it going to? Well, it's going to my, solicitor audience. What's the blog title? I've already come up with that title. It was the topic. It was, win on LinkedIn with red or something, whatever it was. Are there any key contacts? When's it due by? When's it got to be uploaded? What's the call to action? So we're all sheep. We need to be told what to do. Do you want me to follow you on Twitter? Do you want me to like you on Instagram? Do you want me to watch a YouTube? Do you want me to subscribe to content? Do you want me to contact you and ask you a question? Do you want me to book an appointment? Come up with a list of call to actions. So I've not made myself very clear here, but what you do is you come up with a list of call to actions. You come up with a list of target audiences. You on the prior screen, you have the topics, the times of year, and this puts it all together so that you can very quickly and easily see over the next 3 months or the next 6 months or the next 12 months, have I spread out my call to actions? Have I covered every audience that I want to speak to? And have I made it relevant? Because I know that in June, there's a Law Society event. So I'm going to focus on the solicitors in June. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to relate it to this particular product. I'm going to make sure that I use this particular call to action because for the last month, I've been using this one. So the whole thing then becomes very strategic because you've thought about what it is you want people to do, who it is you're wanting to talk to, and at what times of year do you want to talk about things. I've just noticed the time, and there's quite a bit left to go through, so I'm going to speed through it. But the good thing is, on YouTube, you can slow me down when you replay it. So then the next thing to do is to look at the success. So have I managed to, what I put this blog out, and did I get more traffic? Did I get more leads? And it's about analyzing that in things like Google Analytics. Let's just talk a wider part here. So how do you write for your audience? Well, think of the persona, understand them, think of their pain points, think of them, really detail down on who you're writing to. Because when you write that blog or record that video or do that podcast, and me right now, I've got just one or two of you in my mind. I've got my target audience in my mind. And I'm thinking right now that I'm just talking to one of you. However many people are here right now, I'm just thinking of one person. I'm thinking they're my ideal client, and this is how I'm going to speak to them because I know that those are their pain points. And okay, if a few of you then don't connect to that because of the way I'm speaking or the tone or the language or the things I'm saying, that's fine. But the ones, my targets, the ones that I know we will work really well together, both of us will get value out of the relationship, will be much more switched on and much more into the conversion stage than just watching and listening or not even engaging. Likewise, when I'm writing a blog, you have to think of that one person. So you might have 10 different audiences, but who are you focusing on today? So you think about the personas, you try and define them. Can you define that by the company they work for, the size of company, the sector, the industry, do you want to work with companies that have an IT department? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Or maybe you're selling to consumers only. And so this slide is for you, but either way, businesses or consumers, you need this slide as well. So who typically is the decision maker? Are they male, female? What age are they? What interests, what hobbies, what are their problems? Define them. And if you can define them and understand their pain points, then there's a very good chance you can write much more relevant and engaging content. And at this point, I'd ask you to start writing some personas, but we won't have time for that. So we'll just have to carry on. What problems have they got? What are their industry hot debates? What's in the news and media? What typically are they asking? What are they Googling? Those are the things to really home in on and think about. So, as I said, if you can define the audiences and think about their problems, then that's a really good start. So some of the things about planning, well, how to plan, I've hopefully shown you that. Thinking about the target audience, thinking of what your key messages are, considering the different types of content, thinking about how and when to share and what to link to. The more you can link to old blogs, new blogs, different parts of the website, citations, so saying the Guardian says this, the Telegraph says this, the Law Association says this, and linking out is a really good thing. Don't worry about that from an SEO point of view. It's a really good thing. Some ways to come up with killer blog titles. So here's some tried and tested formulas. Use a number, 7 secrets to success. Teach me how to do something. Ask a question. Are you the king? Are you the king of Twitter? Talk to me. Use the word you and your in not just the title, but in the content as well. Talk to me. Say don't do something. People want to do it. Use celebrities or brands to power popular trends. Be controversial. Make unusual associations. A blog on how lemons help your HR makes you think, oh, what the hell is that all about? Might have a look. So coming up with some blog titles. Then maybe afterwards you could do a little exercise. What content needs to go into that blog post to answer the question? It's about adding value, benefiting customers, and giving them a reason to read their valuable time. Why would they spend their valuable time reading or listening to your content? You've got to have a purpose. Is it to highlight a service? Is it to gather data? Is it to establish thought leadership, add value to clients, or is it to show personality? What is it you're trying to do? Alexis, should you have a different call to action, or is it okay to be the same as in get in touch? No, vary the call to action. I would suggest, maybe one month you need to power your social media. Maybe you need to build an email list. If you're just continually saying call, that's not really hitting every audience. So I would say come up with some clever call to actions and vary them all the way through. conscious of time, I'm just quickly gathering my thoughts. So this was a company I did some work with. Very quickly, this is what their blog looked like before I walked in, and I said, God, here's some fundamental things that you need. So you need to add some personality, add a picture of the author, add some social proof, show that at least someone has tweeted this, add an image that's relevant, add bullet points and subheadings, make it look good. Look at magazines and how magazines and newspapers lay out content. Make it easy to subscribe. MailChimp has a brilliant RSS to email feature. It's free of charge, where you can get people to sign up and receive a weekly blog. Andrew, is there an optimum word count? I think, this is always a difficult one. It's always quality over quantity, always. But Google likes long form. Google loves 2,500 word blogs, but at the same time, I think you probably need to be thinking of the sort of 700, 800 words for a substantial blog. Blogs that are sort of 300-400, unless there's a huge amount of quality in there, then they're probably not long enough. And there is a balance. It's quality is way more important than quantity. To say though. So it's all about the beauty. It's about what it looks like. It's got to look attractive for people to engage with it in the first place. People are sheep. Tell them what to do. Show them that other people have tweeted, other people, you can add counters on to show that one person even has tweeted this or liked it. So people are sheep. Tell them what to do and show them that other people have done it. Make people feel welcome by using the word you and your. Really important. So how can you distribute it? Because that was one of your questions. Well, there's some really simple things. Again, you can get a screenshot of this. You'll get this slide afterwards. But, adding it at the bottom of your email signature, changing your email signature every week or every month for your latest blog post, making sure you post it on every social platform, putting it on YouTube, making it easy for people to share, doing guest blogs, because guests will then tell other people. So if I was to interview you on one of my blogs, the chances are you're going to tell other people. Annual reports, internal comms, service pages, email signatures, events and speaking. There's loads and loads of opportunities, but here's just some of those ideas, and you just need to consider them all, really, I guess. Have a plan. Who's responsible for sharing? Do you have a sharing checklist? What time and what day do you want to share? And you absolutely need to plan. I always try and keep my timekeeping. So hopefully we're on time, and you'll see that. Apologies that I've just had to speed through just towards the end there. If you've got questions or you want further advice, you can have a look at some of the links that I'll drop in the chat. So we've got a whole networking group on Facebook that you can come and find me and connect with other people. There's a podcast that I do, and I'd love you to be a listener on it. There's lots of more events on the One Yorkshire website. There's the podcast link. It's in the chat as well. If you've got any questions, I don't see any right now, but feel free to email me afterwards or find me on LinkedIn. I will happily answer them for you. Most importantly, thank you for being here, and feel free to challenge me online or directly in my inbox if you think all of this was a load of nonsense. There's lots more coming up. I'd love to see you at a future one. Please don't go quite yet, because there's a link that you're going to get right now, which just has a quick way of giving me some feedback and letting me know what you thought. I thank you so much for giving me your time, and I look forward to seeing you again soon, and have a good rest of day, and I will speak to you soon, but I can't find sorry, 1 second. I will speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.